Post the road, all call, the wrong team. guess we're late.
Same frame of mind, so there's no, well,
Yeah, understand we must be late telling everybody. Thank you, Jim.
you will. So back on the tree budget, we purchased 2 years ago, we got the goes higher than three companies that we have to rent from because of the reach that we can't take down a tree. And but the FEMA, and if we don't have that, you know, contract, stormwater, reason for pond services, complaining if we don't have our own basin maintenance. So we have to contract that all out. So that has to be done for MS4. And we break the town into 3 or 4 segments because we have 700 so basins. And
Okay, what will be the changes in that for the next budget year? Stormwater and
so year 28, for he wants us to sweep back, so not a manual sweeper, fix it up, they want to keep back at the same time. So in year 28, they're pushing to have that done by all regions that are in the MS4. It was supposed to be year 25, come together with all the regulations that they wanted, so now it's pushed up to year 28. So in that being said, I've been shopping around for a vehicle to do such.
Jay, sorry, can you just pause for a second? I guess where there's some audio issues and we want to get those resolved
Okay.
to make sure. Anybody's got a phone, Melissa or not? If you can hear us.
speak up.
So I was looking into purchasing a used sweep back truck to take care of this issue. The new one is a large sum of money. So we wanted to go used first. We got on a couple, we got a pretty decent price on them, so sooner or later we're gonna be forced into it, so that's where we stand with that.
How much are those used ones?
The used ones, 30 and 40, 30 and 50,000.
And this year it will cost us $21,000 to clean the dirt.
Correct.
How much for a brand new one?
350,000.
It is.
So the one we're looking at is a maintainer. The ones that we contract out, jet the pipes, it's a clogged, so we wouldn't be able to do that. But the way I see it, if we maintain them, we shouldn't have to jet the pipe, because the reason you jet a pipe is because you don't maintain the basins, they get full of silt. Any questions on that?
Any for 750 basins?
I said we break them all.
Or just the 120?
basins on. So they're not, we don't do 700 a year.
So we do 755 for.
Question on the FEMA piece. I think I probably just need to refresh my memory, so. They know our FEMA funds here in our budget, there were additional, this is the question, were there additional FEMA funds that we were receiving outside of those kind of like event related FEMA funds? Okay.
So. We knew when there was a big storm.
Yeah.
That he was gonna have FEMA back and stuff.
Yeah.
So we're not gonna have that.
So the increase is basically we are taking off. What some FEMA.
Take care of anything that comes up.
Yeah, how much do you have in, free cleanup cost?
This year.
Was over 800,000, but that was both storms, not.
Yeah, and also the sands wash off.
Right, just a rough number on tree cleaning. Tree, 50,000, 40,000.
It's 35,000. One stone. So, that's what it's just to maintain the laptop. He's going to retire. So, that being said, it's gonna be a new person, and she has one in mind, but they haven't said yes or no. So, her generosity to us will be gone, first prices.
Usually comes in like August or something.
Okay.
Just a quick one, so we're currently have the 8 full-time, 4 part-time. Did one part-time go to full, like why is there a reduction in part-time?
Can we break down the only one I have, I know we want 8,000 on fuel costs, I know we're tired of this too. Is that gonna be enough?
I have no idea,
Right.
because I reached out already to Atlantic and to Jeff Welch. I talked to Jeff Welch last week, and he said everything that's now taken place, that they closed, per se, the market for pricing, and they haven't reopened, so I'm waiting.
Okay.
on him. I asked him to get a price after that situation, but he went.
Okay, yeah, I mean, this one's gonna be,
It's not unforeseen.
no, I just wanted to make sure that everybody online understood, and they should, if they watch the news, and
And I think we should kind of keep.
I was gonna say as well, for the vehicle gas, and things that type as well, you want to decrease it by $1,000. Even before. You want to increase it, unless we lost people, or?
Oh, we want, yeah, we bought the. Yeah.
shows a significant increase. 5550, which is salty ISO. And that is a fountain dock every year. Some years we've had money to carry over. This year we will not. Depends on salt season, we're already over this year. We will run salt this year.
About 60,000.
And it's important to know that this is the one budget line item on over budget. So, Jake. Would you like that?
Going back to the contract services line, we talked about sleeping in. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you were kind of talking about there's a requirement by law.
They're being dumped into the town drain and going into the rivers of an algae. So they, rather than the old pickup sweepers, they all, now they want to back, so that's what they call it, back sweep.
And that's the truck that you're currently looking at to buy. So we have 3 years, 2 years.
2 years. They have more help than, you know.
27 budget.
Yeah, so plus have another next year. Did you want to? So is that, so we're increasing it by 7,000, still paying for the contracted services for this year? Is that an increase of 7,000 starting cushion to purchase our own vehicle?
That's just to do that as a CIP. This is just operation.
Wallace, Paul, you have any questions on public works or?
You guys talking to me?
Hello?
I can barely hear you. I don't know what's going on with other folks. I know maybe it's me. Maybe my head is stuffed up. But in any case, I'm all good.
Good.
I could hear Joel pretty good, but other folks are cutting in and out. I don't know if it's a problem for other people or not.
It is.
If y'all could just come right online.
And I can't even send you a message. So there you go. Anyway, I'm happy to listen and move on from there. Actually, Jay, believe it or not, I'm going to ask you if you could speak a little louder.
Okay.
There you go.
On the high point, Jay, you're on. High point, Jay, you're almost done.
Thank you. Paul, you know me.
Jay, do we have a sufficient salt supply right now for another ice storm?
Yes.
All right, because they're loading off the truck into dump trucks over at the pier right now. They're not even building a pile. So I was watching it the other day. They're loading directly into dump trucks off that shit. No, they're
It depends which pile you're watching.
run right state pier right on the middle bridge.
Are we still the pile closest to the bridge?
Closest to the the newest bridge.
Okay,
That's our pile.
okay, so you have the downtown one. Okay, good. All right. Thank you.
You know,
Actually, Jay, you may know what question I'm going to ask regarding salt. I mean, I know you go through some cooperative purchasing program, right? You go through the state or the SMPDC program, or who you going through these days? One or the other, I assume.
You are correct, Paul. So I do all three. I do the state of Maine, I do Portland Greater Council, and I also do the one that you're referring to, York County. So, that being said, I go with the less expensive one. And it's usually 99% of the time, Portland Greater Council.
Really? Okay. I mean, do you switch? Do you just use theirs for the whole season, or do you switch back and forth during the season?
I use this for the whole season because it's the less
Yep.
time.
Okay.
But, and also that being said, this year, we ran low on salt. So I had all my eggs in one basket. So I tried to reach out and they said, sorry, if you had a contract with us, then we would have served you. So next year, I'll reach out to Granite State, Easton, same the one that you're talking about. And he told me it doesn't matter if you buy any, but if you're on the list, then we could have supplied you.
That's a great backup to have just in case.
Correct.
Yeah.
I mean, the town of York, the state of Maine was gracious. We borrowed some from them, 100 ton from each. And we've returned it at this point. But they were gracious to us, as I would be to them.
Excellent. Thank you, Jay. That cooperation goes a long way.
Where do those contracts lie in terms of their existence somewhere? Because I imagine they're decent in their value.
We have a copy of the salt contract from Pike Industries.
No.
That Philippe's got.
Which contracts?
Does any of them?
Just any of the contracts for purchasing salt, for example, as we're talking now. I imagine, they must be up in the hundreds of thousands. So I'm just wondering where they sit and whether if they're on a review cycle and what the process of going back out to get the pricing and reviewing those costs and making selections.
So you mean so I get emailed each season and I submit what I anticipate for salt, which is always 3,500 ton. So they go with that. And it goes into a big law, the whole area, whoever goes with them. They send that to Morton Salt, Easton Salt, Granite State, and they come back with a price that they're gonna give each town on the quantity that they think they'll be using. So that being said, then they give a price per ton, picked up or delivered. And Portland Greater Council is usually the less expensive of the three. So that's what I go with.
Yes,
Does that answer your question?
it does. I guess.
So I submit a paper that says I'm
So
gonna use this much liquid and I'm gonna use this much granular.
Yeah,
And they put it they tally it all up and they submit it to Morton or whoever.
yeah. And then once it comes to us, there's.
Then they
Some sort of-
post it, these are the bids from the different vendors this year. And
Yeah.
then you can choose who you wanna go with.
And that that selection is, the final approval is by Tim, or that comes up to council, or?
Usually,
Usually it's me, it's usually operating stuff, so that usually just gets, we bid it out and so I haven't brought it up. Usually we don't. It usually just goes to, I sign it and well, the lowest bid.
We actually got the state one emailed today to the bid.
that was your accountant,
Oh, yeah, John.
yes.
Yeah, because I just recall in the legal training that the attorney telling us that town council is the only one who is able to bind the town to an agreement. So. Just a thing to note for potential realignment.
Yep, absolutely.
Anything else on highway? Hearing none, thank you, Jay.
You're entirely welcome.
So we should do
Are we done?
JCIP next.
Oh, yeah.
So you're underway. John,
All right,
Jen, I'll let you go ahead and do this one. So this is it's gonna be a. $32.10 is a sheet.
Does everybody have the sheet? So with the highway, it's a CIP account. This is covering lease payments. And we leave extra money in there in case something should break down. In the current year, we do have 40,000 in there for our excavator, something smaller. That Jay has not purchased yet. So that is something that he'll be looking at this spring. Cause it would bring the balance pretty low, so we don't like to keep it that low for long. This just has the Bobcat, a 350 and a 550 and the two newest Western Star lease payments.
Okay, and go to 26 current. For the 27 budget.
What did I just do, 27?
Okay. And
So those are pretty much fixed. You can see that two of them will be paid off in fiscal year 27. The Bobcat sidewalk machine and the F-350. So those two $15,000 payments will go away for next year.
So the excavator up in FY 26 is gonna be purchased in FY 27.
No, sorry, the only thing that was open for the current fiscal year besides the lease payment was the excavator. And that's something that has not been purchased yet, but we still have until June.
let's try to adjust hers.
Is there anything you wanted to add to that, Jay? He wants a lot of equipment.
because it clears out. So. Yeah,
Is there anything that you feel like you need next?
yeah, so here we go. So the Bobcat sidewalk machine has become kind of like a lemon to us. So I got a good trade-in price for it against a new skid steer. A bigger skid steer with a high flow pump, so to be able to operate a snow blower.
So it's constant flow.
But a high.
Yeah, high capacity.
Yeah, right, high, again, it goes from 10 to 30. To operate a snow blower or a milling head, things of that nature for implements. So a Bobcat skid steer we use daily. We have a small one now. The reason we have a small one is because it fits on the sidewalks. Bobcat is the only one that makes that horsepower and size that we like, but it doesn't have a high flow pump, wish it did. So that being said, we wanted the next size up, which would fit on the sidewalk, but not as efficient. But we'd get more bang season out of our whole operation with a machine that could do high flow. So this all happened, so last year we put in 40,000 for a smaller excavator, but now this has transpired. So I'm juggling here which one to go with, so I reached out to my crew and they said they'd rather have the skid steer because we use that more often than the excavator.
Does that, I wanna make sure I understand, is that what you're talking about, is this involving getting rid of the Bobcat sidewalk machine and like swapping that for something?
Trade,
Gotcha, okay.
trade or selling it to another municipality.
Okay. And so that's something you're considering right now?
That's where we stand with that scene, so you understand.
Oh, I've seen that. I see it clear as sidewalks. And that's the one on here whose final payment is,
Yes, we still own 15, that's the
yeah,
that's the clincher on this, yeah, that's the. Okay. So that's, so with $40,000 per se I got to play with.
Mhm.
I'm trying to get the best for what we do.
for those, and then you need the snow blower and plow attachment to that, right? The Bobcat has a plow and snow blower, right? And you're saying snow blower is underpowered by it.
The snow blower, yes. Snow blower, correct, so
Yeah.
the snow blower we have, it would be too narrow for the upsize, so we'd have to buy.
So the whole, this package of the decision would be
Yes, the trade,
increased size and then associated attachments,
just that one attachment.
just the one.
Yes, everything else will fit that we have.
Jay, remind me, the Western Star trucks, are these the big, those are
Yes,
the
the
big
one-
guys?
Yes, the one that you
Wrote
got
it.
a tour of,
Okay, thank you.
and that was one of the older ones.
So for highway, we have 150,000 budgeted to go into the reserve with highway. Does anybody have any other questions on this CIP?
Yeah, I guess my question would be related, so with the 150, so the balance after payments of existing liabilities would be call it, the estimated balance end of fiscal year 27 is 28,000, a little minus, and then right now you're saying plus 40 from not procuring the excavator, which is shown up here in fiscal year 25.
That's
Sorry,
right.
26. So your balance after liabilities with this, for this proposal would be 80,000 to your desire of procuring the skid steer and associated attachments.
That's right.
Does that make sense? It would be, let me boil it down one more time. Balance fiscal year 27 on the page, so it's $27,932.
That's assuming the 40,000 isn't spent.
Assuming, no, that is plus 150 minus the current liabilities, which are rows 24 through 27.
So I think what Jay's saying is that he would rather, instead of getting the $40,000 excavator, spend that money on a upgraded.
Yeah.
Skid steer, correct.
Yeah, I'm trying to get at what the balance is for that proposal, which I think based on that math is 80,000, and I wanna ask, is that appropriate for the
Yes,
desire?
so will the, what you're saying, what you're asking, will the 80,000 purchase what I'm looking at?
Yeah, and if the full 80,000 would purchase it, and would you be financing such that we'd still have some balance at the end, or how does that capital planning all look? Based on what is, like, what now we know exactly being proposed for this money.
Well, he doesn't have a number yet, so until you have the hard number, it's
For skid steer,
right.
I kinda do have a hard number. They're giving us 35,000 for a trade-in with a blower. And it's 70,000, I think, total price. But you add that 15,000 into the 35. Right?
Yeah, because you still owe that,
Because you still owe it, right? So now we're up to 50,000.
Yeah, I think with the trade-in, we're at 115 after next fiscal year's liability payments.
Well, if we don't spend the 40, at the end of this year, we'll have 44,000. Yeah. And then we'll add the 150, minus our payments, should be left at 28,000, like you said, plus the 40 if we don't spend it this year, so 30, 40, 70.
I also want to just confirm with that, Jen, because it's CIP, if the 40,000 is not spent in this fiscal year,
Let's see.
it still stays with that.
That
It
is correct.
carries forward.
Yeah, that's the one thing about CIP that's different than the operating, is CIPs carry forward if you don't spend that. Whereas operating, all gets put back into the undesignated. The overage of revenue and the underspent of expenses, all gets put back into undesignated.
And are these all sitting in the similar high yield savings?
Yes, CIP is in a high yield savings on its own, we have multiple checking accounts.
Oh, I
Savings
figured,
accounts,
okay.
yes.
And I apologize for starting to get into the weeds on this one item. I guess my story of it all is, I think it would be nice to tighten that up and know what the number is expected to be, and with a line item saying, you know,
If I,
trade in, and I know it's budgeting and you're not gone out there and gotten a quote, but you know,
I have it all on my desk. If I know you wanted that information, I'd have had it. I have concrete numbers.
okay.
And we would have to bring that to the council for.
Yeah, I just wanna make sure that when we're budgeting, we're doing it off of the basis of our actual idea versus what's shown here.
Of course.
Any other questions on highway capital improvement?
Just real quick, Jay, so it sounds like you sound reasonably confident that with between kind of what we're allocating for, what we're talking about allocating for this coming fiscal year and that additional 40,000 that was allocated for this past year, you feel like there's sufficient funds allocated to make this purchase, I guess.
I guess just a clarifying question for me as well with that, so. How many plow trucks do you currently need? No, is it, yeah, so, I just, so. Not that we need to think about this year, but I'm also, as we. Talk about more expansion and getting more people in the downtown, everything, is one sidewalk machine enough?
So this will be a backup
Okay,
for the main sidewalk machine.
okay.
As the other Bobcat, we call it the buggy, was. But it only fits on certain parts of this, it doesn't fit on all, so we have to make it choose.
Okay.
Cause originally this was bought for the estates in Old Mill, but where we have taken on 236. I've had to shift employees and purchase a truck for that area where I took a big truck out of there, put on 236, so I juggled around to make everything better in our budget. So that's why we purchased, so originally we purchased so we could do sidewalks faster. So now I'm back to the way I've been doing them
And one of them was down this year, correct?
for a whole week. Yeah.
Jay, can you give us more stuff about like the whole council, give kind of the scoop that's happened over the past few years where we've had to take on 236 and we've had to buy additional equipment because the state has just lobbed this responsibility on our fleets. I think it's important that council understand that.
So what happens with the census, so there's a threshold that they have, we went over the threshold, so they gave us more miles. So we have now total maintaining of all of downtown, 236 up to the PD. So we do state aid, plowing, winter maintenance, from PD all the way to the lights. And on 236 by 101. We do 91 to York, and we do 101 to New Hampshire.
And
Winter maintenance only.
And it's important, that is new in the past few years, because as Jay said, our population has now exceeded a certain point. So from state perspective, the state says, hey, your population is now above whatever number. So now here's additional roads you have to be responsible for that you weren't responsible for before.
Correct.
And so we were faced with the situation a few years ago where we suddenly had to take on additional roads. We had to buy new trucks. We had to make sure we covered all of that with little to no notice from the state. This was just a problem that kind of got put on our plates. And so we've done our
Wait.
best that and make that work. But I just want you all to understand that situation.
Did we, I'm out here on the Zoom land. Did we get any, did the state compensate us for those additional miles at all?
He said, thank you.
They gave us a little money,
Yeah, they did give back a little.
not enough.
Oh, well, year to year or just once?
Year to year fall, and it goes up with the COL, we'll call it cost of living per se. So they gave us $16,000 for the additional.
Okay.
That's all,
That's it.
but I don't see it, Paul, it goes into.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep.
So that being said, that's, it's a big reason why I'm over in Salt. Cause that's a high speed road, so I make sure I want it safe.
You know when you cross the line. Cause I drive it every day, and you know when you cross the line into Elliott, you know when you cross the line into Gitter. So. Coming back from Mass the other night, Paul, I drove all the way back from Boston, in that Friday night snowstorm, the first plow I saw was 236 ours, from Boston to here. The only plow I saw at 9:30 at night. So. Well, nothing on 95, it was crazy.
Where does that, does that line shows up on the revenue projection report? Is that the state highway URIP/LRAP?
Yes, that's correct. It used to be 66,000 back in fiscal 23.
And now
And then
we're,
it jumped up to the 99,000. That's when we started to take it over, and you can see now we're projecting 113.
okay, so.
Yep.
It's $113,000 that we received from the state to help supplement the cost of winter maintenance on the state roads.
Plus summer.
Year makes.
Summer as well. Okay,
What I explained, Sam, is we're now responsible for all the downtown Route 4 236, from the tracks, from the golf course to the Hampshire line to the PD, because I was 365. From the PD to the lights is an additional.
that's the winter.
That's winter.
Okay,
91 is winter. 91 and 101. 91 has always been ours. 101 was split because Elliott and South Berwick, but it didn't make sense, so they just, for Elliott to go plow less than a quarter of a mile. I mean, I gotta go over it, so my proposal to the state that they would just allocate all that to us.
And Jay, for projects like for example, like the Emery's Bridge Road, big beast that happened last summer. Do we, for something like that, I know, we ended up doing a lot of the work, but just remind me how the state kind of funds, did we get any funding or
We
is
did
this
not, that was all on my CIP.
Yep.
So when that said, that backed me up 3 years on the road work.
Do you want to switch to CIP roads?
Yeah, if we're done with, does anybody have any other questions for highway equipment? CIP? And if we could pull out 3211, 320-3211, that is CIP roads. Jay and Jen go over that.
Go ahead, Jen, take it away.
Hold on.
So this year,
Hang on, one minute.
Pause. 30 to 11.
3211,
It's like 5.
and as we all,
top postal, so come.
is it, as we, is working.
And it's done.
Yes, here we go, back. So as we know, it's gonna be hard to project how much paving I can do this year because of what has transpired. So before this has all happened, out of the $730,000 that I picked for roads, I'm only gonna be able to do 4 of them. Hopefully 4. Road Fields being number one, because Road Fields got backslated because of Amherst Bridge Road. So that was supposed to be done last spring, not this spring coming. Next is Ross and Goodwin. After that is Amherst Bridge Road.
The whole room, the whole.
No, that's a long road. So Amherst Bridge Road, the far end, I replaced all the culverts in there last year, so we wouldn't have to rip and tear. Make sure everything was done properly. So that's gonna be paved this year. And Academy Street, the far end up to Great Works, if I have enough money. That road hasn't been done since the middle to late '90s, back when you lived there.
So it's a bond payment that you split half and half on your payment, correct?
Well, this is all CIP.
Right. So half the, wanna go,
So we, in the past, we've been
Okay,
putting
I know.
700,000 towards roads every year. The first portion has to pay the road bond, which this will be our last payment of the road bond. So that's roughly 408,000, if I did that math quickly in my head. So the balance of that is at 292 going into the roads CIP for fiscal 27. And then if we stick to the same plan that the town has had, fiscal 28, they will have fully paid for the road bond. And we'll have 700 to put into CIP every year, and Jay can start over with fixing all the roads.
It was a good thing when we did it. We did a lot of roads for that.
Yeah, absolutely did, so.
4 million.
Yes, correct, it was $4 million, and my objective is to keep up with what we spent the $4 million on. So that's where I am.
So that. I'm just trying to figure this out. The 292. 700 minus 292, that's the bond, existing bond payment that translates.
Correct, you'll see that in the debt department when we get
So
there.
you can tell me how much money I got?
No, we spent that 6 or 8.
No, I gotta find that 180 sheet. There it is.
Yep, that's it, 180, yeah.
But you can keep talking, I'm just, oh, I got it.
How many do you got?
So the estimated 400 road repairs for 25, does that include the Emery's Bridge and, or is there an actual breakout of that?
Yes, there is. Right?
Yes, there will be.
Yes, so my top priority is to finish Road Fields.
Yeah.
Second will be Amherst Bridge Road. Third will be Ross and Goodwin. And fourth will be Academy.
You were asking me about the current year though, right?
Yeah, and just so we know what the, I guess, I know it's estimated, but if we had, this is back to my cash projections request, if we knew, where we actually stood right now, because that 400 is a whole lump sum, we're nearing the end of the fiscal year, we must, know how, assuming it's about 60% of it that's gone, but maybe it's all of it, like, are we going to spend all of it this year? Like,
They usually like to keep a piggy bank per se, so I can start the following spring.
Right, so this year he spent just shy of 221,000, so he'll be doing more in the spring.
so it's 221 to date, and we're about 60% through the year.
Correct, right?
Okay.
Most of the year, half the year, he can't do anything. And you'll see that in the monthly CIP reports that I send out, that will show you the balance that's in that account.
Okay.
So you understand, so this year is until July, correct?
Yeah.
So I like to carry over, so I can start in the spring to get some of the projects done and then keep going.
But
So
there's,
Jay, hey, this is Paul out here. So Jay, how do you prioritize, is that the priorities? I mean, as you work through the year, I mean, is that like, 1, 2, 3, 4, or are you, you know what I mean? I mean, I know where you want to do them all, but things happen, so I guess I'm just wondering if that is sort of the order of what you're proposing to do.
That's the order I'm proposing to do, because Road Fields is out there and so is an Emmys Bridge.
Okay,
So the new one actually would be Academy Street.
And first
Okay.
meeting, you can see it.
On the scene,
And the culverts breaking down.
we have another culvert, which is Neil's, which is on Old Fields Road. That will be inspected in March. So the state of Maine used to have stream crossing grants. They've eliminated it last year, and they eliminated it again this year. So I'm hoping that the condition of the culvert has not changed. I'll know at the end of March. DOT will be doing another inspection, and I'll have the people that I reach out to, which is Vortex, I'm looking, it hasn't changed any. I'd like to line that culvert with a polyurethane liner. That will give it a 60-year lifespan. So I was hoping to do with Emmys Bridge, but that went the wrong way.
Is that the one by Lord's Lane?
Correct.
Okay.
That's why it's posted,
Yep.
22 ton.
So that sounds like a project that potentially, like for to have on our radar, that could potentially become a bigger effort for you all, depending on the outcome in March.
Correct.
Okay, so that, what you just said, could rearrange the priorities here.
Absolutely.
So I think, just to hit this point home, like last year, we had this huge debacle on Emery's Bridge Road,
Right,
which then
yep.
the shift to reprioritize, not only dollars, but labor. The
Right.
Public Works Department, we could not gin up more time in last year to complete all of the work that needed to be done, and so we had to push something out.
Correct.
Except I see a balance both at the end of FY 25 and projected for FY 26, and an estimated cost to complete the work that's less than those projected balances.
So this is the whole $4 million.
So if we're gonna start projects, I think we should finish them without excuse. And I think it's to the benefit of town that we make sure that happens.
It also became time,
Yeah.
paving time, not me. It was pavers,
This rounded multiple fiscal years, but
one physical.
I guess while we're talking about the capital planning, I think you probably have so much institutional knowledge in your head about the aging condition of all these streets, and I'm sure it's down somewhere. And when it comes to planning out these large projects, I think it's important that we see not only the estimated road repair dollar, but like to your point about that culvert, when do we need to do it? When should we expect if it has to get pulled in from FY 29 to 28? I think that stuff like that we know is out there should be put down on paper and, really planned out there. And my last point related to unfinished projects is I had another resident ask me about Great Works Drive and whether that project is going to get its final coat, some sort of completion. They were under the assumption that it wasn't back when the development was built, final coat, or what I'm not fully versed on the concern, but it was another road that came to my attention as needing some work. So not seeing stuff, knowing that there's issues out there and not seeing them out multiple years in terms of planning, I think it's an effort that deserves some attention.
Great Works Drive does need attention, absolutely. But you also have to consider what that road does versus Emmys Bridge Road.
For sure, and I think my point is the planning and putting it on a capital improvement plan and a schedule will not only help with budgeting, but also inform the residents of our town that, hey, we are looking at stuff that is being brought up to us and we have a plan for it.
Absolutely. And Great Works has been rebuilt once since its time with all new drainage, pipe, plastic, everywhere, basins that wasn't there, added, road bed was added. Since it was built in 1987, I believe, tell me if I'm wrong, before that, 78, that's
Right, that's
that.
your neck of the woods.
Yeah,
At least 85.
it was 85, I can remember where I was working. So, yeah,
So, yeah, just
So
would
it's
be,
been
would be
done.
concerned
it has
and
been done.
more broadly about the long-term planning.
Jay, how do you evaluate the roads? You don't just drive around, look at them.
No, so back in the early 90s, state of Maine came up with Maine local roads, they had this program called MSRS. That evaluate. How you evaluate the road, you put them in classifications. So I still use that same program today.
That's great, Jay. I remember driving around with people doing that. Yeah, it was,
How we came up with the $4 million for the road bond.
Correct.
And we did the most needed roads and got ahead.
I mean, you basically would drive each road and with an iPad and describe the condition of each road and, and then, throw it into some program and it tells you which ones are, gonna fall apart and which ones aren't.
And that's a ongoing effort that can spit out reports such that this planning effort could be based on that data.
Yeah, Sam, you should take a look at it. It's actually sort of interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. You might like it.
Great, anything else for road improvements? Hearing none. Now, stay. Thank you, Jen. Chief, you're in the hot seat. Right, you get some leaves. 330, 3350 is fire. Thank you. Not sure where you want to start.
Are we starting with the regular,
We'll start with the regular sheet.
are we doing CIP first or?
Let's start with that, ready?
Yeah.
You start with that, right? It's working. Hello.
140, 1410.
Hello.
You have to just give it a second. Not bad.
Can you hear me now? Nope.
Yeah, I'll change that.
Or take,
Give me balls.
Oh, no, his is wired. Oh, I guess it's wired.
Yeah, why, it won't work, it won't reach over there.
Chief, you come sit next to me.
Sure.
How's the snow while you're?
There was that at Elton tech support.
No more snow, I'm sick of over
I don't know, I used to be leaves in my yard, now it's still.
It's
gonna be a nice.
Yeah,
Roads are gonna be like.
That's.
it already is.
Anyone, they want to see the sands. Anyway, when you come across the bridge. You got a nice good one from your house going.
Oh, that. How's that?
So back where my house is, there's that big test. So like even when there's.
Yes.
I'm like, where's my life now?
Good.
Yeah, someone almost hit me falling out of the driveway.
I went to work for from
All right.
Del Mar. I think I'm motivated a while before I do that. That was rough this morning.
Was there?
Yeah, the dirt and the washout.
I got a ping.
That bridge is so, they're saying it, what, the wall, a little environment.
That must be. He just yelled. No.
It's.
Like that little, where that is like a little refrigerator, like it'll be like 80 degrees in the house when I walk in, I can feel. Like,
Yeah.
or what I walked into her.
Right out.
That's one too.
And one of the motorcycles.
That work?
Yep.
Alright.
Actually, you're county. Or.
It's gonna be good.
Yeah.
What's that?
Very close to it.
That's exactly what that is.
Yeah.
And probably why the bridge was like.
Yeah, it's.
I'm uncomfortably close to it.
Okay.
All right.
Everyone, you ready?
Take it away.
All right, so obviously the big change in this budget is the salary line or the payroll line. And that is due to the second year of the fire waste EMS project that we started last year. So in the current budget that we're in, we focus mostly on purchasing equipment and the licensing and all the back end stuff. And we had budgeted for hiring the 8 full-time firefighter, EMTs and paramedics, starting in May. that will kind of get us up and running. So that's where we're kind of at today. And then this budget includes continuing the full year for the 8 full-timers, and then adding the 4 more to give a 3-person shift, which will allow us to do either fire or EMS crossed over. So it's kind of it's the second big leap, and then we're kind of leveled out from there. It's it's not a situation where every year I'm gonna come back for 4 more. This is the staffing level for the foreseeable future. So
Staffing level for the current population in town, if we go up to 10,000, it's gonna change again.
right, yeah.
Yes, yeah.
And I'd say, it's always under review based on changing conditions, but, things are fairly stable right now. I don't see that changing anytime soon.
Can I ask if the Zoom is good, just because I know that people are gonna be interested in this part of the workshop?
Paul, how you working?
For the recording.
Good. You guys started talking louder. That's great.
Third time's a charm. So that's really the major increase, obviously. There are some things here that are kind of dependent that would only come into play if there was an offsetting, revenue. Details would be one of them. So, that 9750 would only get used if we were billing a third party person for that time. So that would be offset. And then the billing charge to the billing company that does all of our billing work. Of course, that's a percentage of billed, so that only becomes due, that as we receive money for it. And then again, for the EMS supplies. So those are kind of variable. It's not a ton of money. It's about 30,000 total, but those are tied to our revenue account on the other side. So other than that, operationally, there isn't a whole lot of change. There's some adjustments just to adjust for, taking on the rescue side of the building, having 2 extra vehicles, having extra training and extra personnel. But other than that, the operations side is pretty stable. I try to keep it as reasonable as possible, knowing that there's a big hit. Makes sense.
So, thank you for taking the time to chat with me yesterday. I wanted to go over again on the record, everything that we talked about, to make sure I followed it up with everything of that. So currently, as it stands in the current fiscal budget, we are paying for 8 full-time EMT additions to the staff that you're hiring for next month.
No. So the staff that we're hiring in May, are the 8.
Is the 8, but in this current proposal, we're asking for more than 8.
We're continuing with the 8 that we have, and then adding the 4 to round out the 3-person shift. Yeah.
All right. So then again, to kind of cover the breakdown of taxes that everyone pays for. Right now, up until July 1, we're paying for those 8 full-time EMT members.
Correct. Yeah.
2 months old.
For 2 months.
Yeah, yeah. So then there's not, so like adjustments will be made for 12 people for FY 26-27.
For FY 27, correct. Yeah. And that's noted, that's counted in here.
Okay, no, I'm just get it all.
Understand.
And then with that being done, when we talked yesterday, around 400-ish ambulance calls were like ambulance/EMS response last year.
So the ambulance does around 750 calls a year. To date, York Ambulance is up to 144 for the year. So if you math that out, it will be just over 800. And of those, they average about 550 transports this year. It seems to be trending a little higher. So.
Okay, perfect.
And you only bill with transport. So that's the transport number is really the important one from the revenue side.
Any other questions on salaries and wages for the fire department? All right. Moving over to CIP. Sure.
I guess and I'm sorry, I'm late, just for clarity of salaries and wages, just drawing attention back to the benefits cost down at the bottom of the sheet associated with said salaries and wages.
$684,287.
So of that, the 4 additional makes up about 205,000 of that. Because it averages about 50,000 per person.
Yeah, do you, when you did your, the wage projections, did everyone have, was there an average wage rate that you used? And if so, what was that, base and then cost loaded?
So we did a wage survey of all the career fire or paid fire departments, basically in Southern York County and Seacoast, New Hampshire. And I took that average, and made our wage scale from there. And then I projected out like a 3% a year, as a baseline, because one of the things that we will do is we're looking for experience, especially on the paramedic side. So we're willing to give you credit for up to 5 years of experience. So that's how we derive those numbers. So to answer your question, Sam, the payroll per person, I figured that each one of them has 5 years of experience because I wanted to budget worst case scenario. In reality, it'll probably be less, but I want to be prepared.
So what was that hourly base pay, and then what was it, if you could on that calculation, either a percentage of overhead or the overhead rate? So like, was it $30 an hour, 25?
Yeah, so an EMT, the firefighter EMT with 5 years of experience comes in, like it's around $31 an hour. It goes up to like 33 for an advanced EMT. There aren't very many of those. I think you only get 2 applications for advanced EMTs. And then the paramedics with 5 years of experience are up in the higher 30s, $37, $38 an hour.
So to jump on the gun,
One last question. Then was it just a percentage multiplier to determine the benefits overhead?
I assumed middle of the road for the health insurance because we have single and then, either employee and spouse or employee and children and then family plan. So that's 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 a year. So I went middle of the road, not knowing what they would have.
So that including the FICA taxes and then the benefits. So an hourly, the benefits would be generally, or partly at least 7.65% based on their wage.
7.65% for FICA, yeah.
Yeah.
And then they're 14.2% for main purse. And then the health insurance, and all the other pieces is about $52,000 for those positions. Assuming that they take the middle of the road insurance.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to figure out what the each employee, like wage of $38 an hour, and what was their multiplier to get to the wage plus benefits.
I got you.
True cost, yeah.
Yeah.
Except for the health insurance.
Do we know what that number is? And I know it's not, you don't know because you haven't hired what their exact is, but for budgeting purposes, what was that multiplier?
So I took what Jen sent me for a per head based on the rate. So like on an EMT basic at $33.26 an hour, their benefit estimate was $50,050 a year.
Okay.
And it adjusts.
I can divide that, figure out the hourly.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
sorry, just a clarifying point, Brina, I apologize that this just isn't clicking, because the way that it was said doesn't make sense. So looking at column 25-26, for the full-time, $107,203. That was passed by the town last year.
Correct.
What was that set to cover for the new EMS staff?
That's full-time payroll. So that's full-time payroll for eight full-time firefighter medics, firefighter EMTs
For just 3 months?
for 2 months.
2 months.
That's why it's 0 right now.
Yes, okay, so then. Doesn't feel like for just 2 people and then moving up to 12, it doesn't feel like we're increasing it enough to make up for that same amount. If it's 107,000 for 2 months, maybe I'm not just off.
It's 107,000 for how many people for 2 months? 8 people for 2 months. And then the 913 is 12 people for 12 months.
Yeah, right, yes.
That does not include benefits.
That's straight out.
Yeah, that's a separate.
That is
Yeah,
not
no,
benefits.
no, it just
And
goes
there
like.
are
Right,
different-
but if you add the 600,000 on the other side.
Okay.
Right,
And there are different hourly rates for a paramedic versus an EMT.
correct, yeah, EMT's lower, paramedics higher.
Yeah, so the
Yeah, it's not a straight
so
divide
four
by 12.
paramedics
No,
are
that's-
have a higher,
I just wasn't sure, I was like, I think maybe that's, yes, yeah,
Be a great bargain if it was.
it would be.
Yes.
And those benefits that you're seeing, the only person who has benefits in fire department today is Van, is the only full-time person.
And I don't think.
And then the
insurance-
budgeting
Yeah.
for 2 people, yeah,
Right.
within 2 months.
Okay, any other questions on salary and wages? Paul, good? Paul went away. Okay, Paul's got no questions.
Do you have a presentation that you can,
Again, if you guys
I
want.
think would be helpful, real quick, just give them a quick overview, make sure everybody's on the same. page.
Yep.
Yep. Sorry. Yep, sorry.
It's been a very long time since I've shared a Zoom screen.
See arrow? Share and then screen.
Oh, there it is.
Or, sorry, that's Teams.
Yeah, that's percent.
Yeah, I use Teams every day. Sorry, it's Teams.
no, just click where it says share.
Oh, yeah.
Welcome to the federal government. We still have Windows XP. Chinese can't hack it.
I can see it on my screen, but I don't see it. Oh, there we go.
You're on the big screen.
There's just a delay. There we go. Alright. So, Tim had asked me to put together a few slides just to kind of bring everyone up to speed on where we're at in this project. Again, it's a 2-year endeavor. And, you know, with a few new counselors who actually, I thought it was helpful to come in and kind of talk about this ahead of time, but I put this together anyway. So we'll go real quick just to let you know kind of what's going on. Don't want to do this. First of all, this is kind of the makeup of the department. So we're what's considered a combination fire department where we have partial paid firefighters and partial paid on call. So all of our call firefighters are paid hourly for all the work they do, whether it's calls or meetings or trainings or stuff like that. They come from all parts of the community. It's a pretty widespread group now. Back in the day, it used to be really localized downtown, and now it's more kind of morphed out. And they're people of all, we take all walks of life. There's no real stereotypical fireman, except for maybe the mustache. Current staffing is myself as a full-time chief. We have the 8 full-time firefighter medics who are, you know, in the process of being hired. And then we have an average, of course, the call force fluctuates depending on people coming and going. We average about 30, 35. We're actually up around 38 right now. Because we took on some medical folks who really didn't have any interest in being firefighters, but wanted to do EMS, so we extended our ranks to them as well. Why do we do this? So, and I'm guilty of this. I've called it the EMS project since it started, but it's really more than just EMS. We kind of have 2 different issues that were bubbling in the background in town, and one was with the ambulance service. They tripled our rate over 2.5 years and didn't really give us much notice. We've kind of had some chronic quality of service complaints, which we haven't spoken about really publicly, but it is out there. And they've been experiencing some challenging staffing challenges that in some cases have left us without anybody working on the ambulance. So that's what really kind of drove this. And we've met with their leadership dozens of times in the last 3 years since I've been chief and haven't gotten a whole lot of traction on improvement. So after all these kind of factors were taken in, it was like, okay, we need to start looking at something. On the other side, with the fire department, like I said, we still have 35 to 38 members. But the most active ones are getting older and the younger ones aren't as active. So we're kind of running into this issue where calls are up, we're getting fewer people to them, and it's taking longer to get to them because there's just, there's fewer of them. So, and there's smaller crews. So that's what kind of led us to look at, okay, well, what if we combine the two and it can solve both problems with one solution?
Chief, let me just throw, so in talking with the current EMS provider, York Ambulance, we talked about started this project. One of the things that kicked us into this mode, they'd gone up from 95,000 to 320,000 in 2 years. And we had 3 more years left in the contract, and we sat down with their financial people and asked them to kind of tell us, was this gonna be going up after the 5 years we renegotiate 5%, 10%? They couldn't give us any ideas, but they didn't think those were reasonable numbers.
And the other side made past the private ambulance bill, right, which was gonna add 6%. So that 6% was coming directly to us from York Ambulance.
Right.
So that was gonna be a rate increase no matter what from them right off the top.
Yeah, and I think that ultimately got struck, but I'm not.
Yeah, I don't know if it ever passed, but
I wouldn't be surprised if it circled around again.
it's a scary
Right,
thing.
so in year 29, 30, we're looking at another significant increase to go up again, unknown to what it was. And the minimum they would have signed is a 5-year contract, and we would have been increasing for till 30, 35. So that was one of the big drivers to look at this, where we could do a combination, both EMS and firefighters, knowing that we're getting less and less firefighters. They're gonna do both roles. But Chief.
Thanks. So we came up with a plan to transition to a fire-based EMS service. The goals here for the project, well, we back up. We wanted to do this over 2 budget cycles because we knew it was a big lift, right? So between the hiring and getting all the equipment, we wanted to try to break it out over as long a term as we could, but still, I mean, it's an emergency to get it done. So we did it over 2 years, and we were successful there. And the goals were to stabilize the cost of providing fire and EMS, address the staffing shortage, reduce the strain on our call people who now are supplementing the ambulance when they're not around, and get to fires and emergencies faster. Also, we'll enhance availability because we'll have 2 ambulances instead of 1. And would be my goal with the EMS project all along, and I've said this multiple times, is we have a very robust fire prevention and community risk reduction program, bringing that sort of philosophy into the medical side, particularly with vulnerable populations, to kind of value add people are here. So we'll see. So again, year 1, we're going to procure all the equipment, get our license, which we did, start hiring our people. Year 2, which is in this new budget, will be to take over July 1st. We're on track for that, a little ahead of schedule. Fill out the remainder of the staff, and then make those station modifications. Because if you guys were there yesterday, the fire and EMS stations are in the same building, but they're physically separated. So we have some money in the project to knock down walls and move stuff around and rearrange. So, and we haven't done any of that yet. We're waiting. Really, we need to wait until the whole building's ours to move forward with that. As far as this year's goals go, we achieved all of them. We did some of them early, and we're on staff for the 2 open ones. And at this point, we're under budget, which is helpful. We haven't touched the station yet, but today we're under budget. That Algonquin ambulance really helped us there, getting a really good deal on that. So then into the coming year, again, transition, get to 4 people, do the station work, and then enhance our training so that everybody's ready. And one of the things with the call force is right now they do a lot of the maintenance and truck checks and stuff around the station that's not emergency related. And one of my goals with this is to take a lot of that burden off of their plates so that they only have so many hours to give. We want them to give those hours when we really, really need them, not checking oil and fire truck and stuff like that. So taking that burden off of them, and again, enhance the community outreach. Obviously, it's a big budget impact. I'm well aware of that. The Zoom thing keeps popping on my screen. I don't know why. Going from the 8 full-time to the 12 full-time will help us reduce the number of medical calls that the call force is going to. Will give us a driver for the fire apparatus. We have had situations just recently where we've had firefighters available with no drivers. So that would help that. And in the worst case scenario, if there were no call firefighters, to turn out a 3-person fire engine is a engine that you can put to work, where 2 you really can't. So we'll maintain the staffing of 2 people in the ambulance, even if somebody's out. And with all 3 in the station, we virtually guarantee that we can get the second ambulance out when needed. And for some context there, York only has 1 ambulance, and mutual aid or out of town ambulances come in. I think last year was about 60 times, so just over once a week. So, that's something that does happen.
Plan to use the Agunquit ambulance first and leave the brand new one sitting, or use the brand new one and use the Agunquit as a backup?
So we're gonna run the Agunquit truck as a backup. My plan now, we're probably gonna run it. I'll probably have 1 or 2 shifts a week run it, just so it's
moving,
being
yeah.
used.
Yep.
And one of the issues with that truck that's at the dealer getting work done is they never used it. So
And sitting's not good.
right. So my thought is at least once a week to get running for the whole shift. Probably not in the winter because the new one's 4-wheel drive. But certainly whenever the weather's nice, we'll run that one shift a week, maybe more.
Just a clarifying question for me.
Sure.
So the paramedics and EMTs you're looking to hire in 2020 tracking, you want them cross-trained?
Yeah, so everybody we hire will be certified firefighter and also either an EMT or paramedic.
Okay.
Yep. And this picture here was the ambulance's first call 2 days ago. I was on
That's
It's
the
like,
the new one, yeah.
High Street.
Close to it.
Tibbetts. So one mutual aid call a week. Being able to reduce that mutual aid would require that 3rd person, is that?
Well, that's one.
We're just trying to quantify,
That's one benefit of having a 3rd person. We could really do that without the 3rd person, but that's one, you basically guarantee that you have that 3rd EMT there.
yeah, I'm trying to validate, obviously you're also a South-Warwick resident, so you feel the pains and all that good stuff. Trying to validate jumping into this and utilizing the rip the Band-Aid off approach in terms of the staffing versus doing what we can to spread that increase over multiple tax years so that, as we spoke the other day, obviously we just went through this revaluation. There's a lot of people in town that saw a huge spike in their taxes from that. A lot of people saying they weren't expecting it, they weren't able to budget it, and I would just really hate to put the same burden on them again 2 years in a row. I think we truly see people leave from town, if not by foreclosure. And I get the intention. Obviously, there's not an intention to do that. I get the intention of the 2-year approach of procuring some equipment and then bringing labor on. I'm just wondering if that transition period, perhaps, obviously we won't have your ambulance. We will have an ambulance. We are in operation legally now. We're going to be hiring some staff in the next couple months. If we're with one ambulance only requiring one mutual aid call a week, can we push that full staffing effort out over more than just this 1 year? Because I think obviously staffing's driving this. We have one ambulance now, understanding there's service issues. The lack of that ambulance being there is not going to be a problem anymore. So there will be an increase in service, no matter. This is a huge bullet to bite in 1 year, and I think there's a possibility to spread it out over multiple years. And I'm not looking for an answer right now, just.
I mean, I understand that. I think that the second ambulance thing is one small piece of what that 3rd person brings to the table. Because the other big piece is if we don't have operators for the fire trucks, then that's the bigger problem, right? So take a car accident, or most calls really is an ambulance and a fire truck, other than just a straight medical call. So if you can't get one or the other to that scene, then that's an issue. And regardless of whether it's one mutual aid call in town a week, it's still, the fire side still has that problem. We have to solve the problem for. So
Maybe this goes along with what Sam was saying. Yeah, I've been badgering Jen for the last day or two, and Tim today about, because I agree. I mean, I think, we need to do this. We voted for it, and we need to staff up this department. I think we need to find ways to sort of mitigate whatever those costs are to our taxpayers. I've talked to a number of people over the last couple of days, people who are very familiar with TIF programming and who've done it for a lot longer than we have, who feel that, there's an opportunity there to use TIF funds. This is a new service. We're just not like, replenishing some existing program. We have started a new program. And we're doing that. We're starting it because of, the way we've grown and what our issues are. So, I know, I've been texting with, emailing with Jen and Tim today. I think we need to fully investigate whether we can use TIF funds for that. It would not cover the full cost of this. I think there's an opportunity there to use some TIF funding to sort of mitigate some of those costs. And I think over time that both Chief Hamill and Tim have, discussions with surrounding towns. I mean, I think this is like a massive opportunity for regional collaboration. I mean, everybody's getting hurt by some of these costs of these EMS services. And, we may need to bite the bullet this year, but I think, there's an opportunity over the coming years to maybe, seek some partnerships and some collaborative arrangements with other towns who surround us who are not doing this. I mean, they're I guess they're, Chief, you can probably speak to it better than I. I mean, they're using the same, Stewart or York Hospital or whatever. So anyway, that's my spiel. Thanks.
So I've already had a conversation with the borough town manager. I've had several conversations. They just got a big increase from Stewart's ambulance. They use Stewart's ambulance. And their statement to me was, Arthur's statement to me was, as soon as you're up and running and you're balanced, let us know so we can talk about a transport contract and contract to you folks.
So.
That's great, Tim. Thank you.
For clarity on where you're going, you're proposing hiring 8, not 12, right?
It sounds like there's 8. I mean, that would be, yeah.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
No, I just want to make sure for clarity, you're talking about hiring the 8 and possibly putting the 4 over a year or 2-year hiring period to get them to the 12.
Yes, understanding that, I think, 3 is obviously the ideal number that is, quote unquote, future proof until, as you know, near the foreseeable future. It would be tax stabilization, if you will, for lack of a better term, for the people instead of, laying it on thick, too thick.
No, I just want to make sure that it was hiring the 8 and pushing the 4, not hiring less than 8.
My general proposal would be to hire less than 12. I don't, not seeing numbers and then further discussing with Chief Hamill, what those service implications would be. I
understand.
Right. So at 12, so there's 4 shifts, right? So there's 2 people, 4 shifts. That's how you get to 8. So with any combination between 8 and 12, we would just have to figure out where we place them. Are they on a shift? Are they Monday through Friday? Whatever that, which we can pull data and see. Right.
So if I may, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, so in a lot of these small towns, what's happened is where they've had 2 on or 3 on, they get unions and will eventually end up with a union, I'm sure. And then what they do is in the contract, they negotiate minimum manning, minimum staffing. So they say, you know, you gotta have 2 on, 3 on. Our goal was, just one of the goals was that to reduce overtime and vacation coverage and sick leave coverage and all the other stuff is and we know we do because people get burned out and that stuff. Was to have 3, drop down to a minimum of 2, so we wouldn't have to have high overtime rate. So before we would backfill, we'd drop down to 1 and then backfill just 1. To go for minimum staffing of 2, but that was one of the other.
Right, yeah. Yeah, so we'd always have to have a paramedic on so that paramedic overtime bucket stays pretty high because you have to account for everything. But you do have a little bit of flexibility with the EMTs where you can, you know, either run short or bring in a call person or any combination thereof, so.
Do you see, you know, looking from the bright side of hiring less people off the bat, any advantages such as getting your own feet off the ground with the department and sort of after this initial hiring round goes through, you obviously have lessons learned and you learn more about personalities and maybe I do this different this next time I hire someone, and then therefore as we increase the staffing, your experience of hiring people would thus be you'd be more experienced at that.
Yes,
I mean, how the team works out together as existing.
Yeah.
And maybe less likely for some turnover. Just thinking out loud, the upside of that.
I mean, I've hired and fired for over 20 years,
Sure.
you know, in my professional life, but you know, one of the downsides would be, you know, the intention from my side would be to, let me back up. We had 33 applicants for 8 spots. I've advanced 18 of them to go and take the physical agility. Those have been coming in. I got 4 of them in today. And my intention would be with Tim's blessing would be to hold a hiring list. So we would take the top 8, and then when and if this is approved, we would just take the next 4 and not have to do the process again because there's a cost involved with that. So that would be my first preference would be to where they're so close together would be to just hire the next 4 off the list. And, you know, if someone doesn't make probation, we still have the list and, you know, keep going from there. But, again, I'll do whatever I have to do, so.
I just want to add and kind of speak to the experience kind of working through this with Chief Hamill last year and getting to this. I know last year there were a couple of times where I was the council chair, and so Tim had reached out to me after the fact and let me know that, you know, you had mentioned it, we did have some days where we had no ambulance coverage, and I think we got lucky, basically, that no one needed that. And so I just want to point out that this budget increase for the fire department, I think, is probably the biggest one I've seen in my time on the town council. So it's very uncomfortable in that way for me, being a seasoned counselor. But this is one of the few decisions and the few things that I think the council has to consider, that I certainly consider this as more of a moral obligation to the community as opposed to just a financial obligation. Of course, we have a responsibility to keep the tax rate as low as possible for our taxpayers, but we also have a responsibility to be stewards of the community and to ensure that the people in the community have access to the resources that they need. And we were kind of dancing along this line of potentially not being able to provide that support to our residents. And so as uncomfortable as this is to have this significant increase, it is my opinion that this is a moral responsibility that we have to provide this service to our service members. And it sucks, frankly, to have to take this huge budget hit this year, but I think it's important. And I think I am open to the chief's thoughts on kind of spacing it out a little bit. I think that if that could work, that's something we absolutely should consider. But we did take that time last year to say, let's up front focus on getting ambulances, licensing, training, et cetera, and then spacing it out and kind of phasing this and not bringing on the full-time for the entire fiscal year. So efforts have been made to lessen the burden on taxpayers. Unfortunately, there's no way getting around the fact that this is going to be a hard hit, period. And I think it's just important that we all be really grounded in the reason why we think this is important to do in the town.
Well, and that's why I put this slide in, only because I thought it was important to level set that, yes, the budget is about just over $1 million increase, but what's really in play is, you know, the 4 additional. So of that, so if the thought is we're gonna save $1 million by holding off, that's not the case. We'll save 340,000 and then another 200 in benefits, so about 540,000, which is obviously a significant amount of money, but it's not $1 million. So I think that's my point.
So using Marshwood math, that also, so it's a $1 million budget increase, but it's not $1 million budget increase because what are we paying for the ambulance?
To be
I mean, what are we paying York
their
ambulance?
price this year was 325,000.
So it's not $1 million.
Right.
Right? Because you're taking that 325 off the $1,085,000.
Right.
So,
And we're anticipating about 300,000 in building or 280,000 in building.
but right off the bat, without billing, it's only 750.
Right.
Taking the 325 off.
I mean, I think it's only 750.
No, I understand all that.
It's reduced to.
But looking at it, we haven't looked at that figure yet, that we're taking a $325,000 payment and not making it. So it has to come out of that if we're gonna do this to the public and say, yes, it is, but we're also not paying 325, so it's not $1 million.
Hey, Chief, can you, I know there's a bill in the legislature on like this, what might that mean? And I'm not like putting all my cards on that table, but, I'm wondering, I know there was the bill to like, deal with costs of EMS services.
Yes.
I'm not sure how familiar, I'm sure you're familiar with it.
Yeah, so there's been a lot of EMS and fire related bills in front of the legislature the last few years. But the ones out this year really revolve around community paramedicine. And that's something that we're interested in participating in. And that's a program where your paramedics are, for lack of a better term, doing house calls. So the ultimate goal is to keep people out of the emergency room because that's the highest cost of healthcare is in the emergency room. And if anyone's been to one lately, they're jam-packed. And that's one of their goals is to transition some of that to the paramedics. But the flip side of that is right now there's no mechanism for like MaineCare or Medicare to pay for it.
Right.
So some of those bills revolve around paying for the community paramedicine programs that a bunch of the departments have said, yeah, we want to do it, but we also need to be reimbursed for it. So I think that's something you'll see happen, at some point because the current emergency room situation is not sustainable.
Okay, so I'm happy that you put this together, and then Jen, I think this is a question for you to kind of connect this together. So looking at the expense report that we have here. With the biggest budget increase that we have on there being the fire department of the $1,085,203. That is the goal of the 12 full-time people. So then we go down to the scary red and then the gray. So if we move forward with the 12 people, seeing the breakdown, that is the percentage increase that residents of South Berg are going to receive on their taxes.
No.
No.
Not correct.
No.
This is a small piece of the pie
The municipal budget
only.
increases by that percentage.
Mhm.
The tax rate, when we set the tax rate in August, we have the municipal budget as an input, as well as the school budget, as well as an overlay. There are three inputs that go into tax rate. So that's a very common misunderstanding that just because the municipal budget as presented is going up by 17%, that does not equate to taxes. Because we have to incorporate the school budget as well.
You wanna say it about high shot, so you understand.
And the other piece of it is the assessor still needs to go out. She can't even start her round until April 1st. And she'll go out and find additional valuation of people who have built homes, put on decks, build sheds. So that'll increase the value, which will help, offset some of this as well. And then we have a pie chart that's on the tax bills. As Tim just mentioned, where we put how much is the town, how much is the school, and how much is the county. So
I do think, I'm sorry, Joel, related to what Joel was saying, I do think it's important that, people are gonna see whatever was presented the other night as, oh, the budget's gone up by 17% or whatever it was. And I think we need to make, there's a communications issue here about like where we're going here. So, I hope.
So that's why we do the public hearing at the end, when we meet with everybody and we go over the numbers.
I know, John, and I'm suggesting that maybe we should do it before the public hearing. Because, the words, if people see a 15% budget increase.
But there's timing challenges with this because we have to finalize our budget in May for our annual town meeting. The school is kind of on a similar timeline. And so, but we don't actually set the tax rate until August. So we're not even at a place where, I don't know if what you're suggesting, Paul, is that we kind of brief people ahead of this public hearing on what the tax rate is gonna be. Unfortunately, we can't say what that is going to be.
I am not saying, I don't care about the school right now, although I will at some point. I'm caring about how people perceive our municipal budget and how we present that. And, if they see it's going up by 15 to, percent, that, we need to make clear that that may not, that may change, and it's not, there's other factors in play here, so.
Yeah, this is just basically like a quarter of the overall.
Right.
Yeah, it's not gonna change, but their tax bills aren't going up 15% just because of what we did. That's what they need to understand, Paul, correct? So that's what this is reflecting. That's what you want them to understand, that just because the municipal budget is up 15%, they can't look at their tax bill, multiply it by 15%, and that's not gonna be their increase in taxes from this.
No, definitely not.
That's what you want them to understand, correct?
I know, and, but yeah.
Okay, now I just wanna make sure I was on the same page with you. Understand all of it, and you're right, people need to understand that, I'm just not sure how we.
And then once we do have more information, the school budget's been finalized, we finalized our budget, we know the new valuations. When we come to the point in August, when we start to set the mill rate, we do spreadsheets for you, so it'll show you the basic impact of the average homeowner from 100,000 to 1 million and an average impact of percentage, monthly and annual increase. But we need all the pieces first. This is just a third of the pie.
Yeah, I think it sounds like we could put together some kind of, I don't know, process flow or graphic or something to just kind of explain to people
The process.
that the municipal budget is determined by the town council, and then the school budget is determined by the school board, and these three things are inputs that then get put into this whole pie that then goes to the town council to just lay out that process.
Yeah, I think that effort definitely needs to happen. I wanna make note, the presentation of the superintendent's budget is next Wednesday. Between the municipal budget and the school budget, that comprises what, 90% of the overall.
Let's count.
Plus County was last year 7%, I think it was.
Like 2 or 3%.
So I think we could come up with something after next week saying, based on what we know of this 93%. And estimate if you were to do a scenario with assumptions, like that could be generated after next week. With fairly, you know what I mean? Like, obviously it's not draft, but it's getting something out there early and letting people have time to digest a draft. Otherwise, we're sort of like the scenario we were here on Tuesday where we got the papers on our desk. Obviously, we weren't making decisions, I'm making an analogy. And we haven't seen anything, but we knew that, this could change, this could, we're gonna talk about it. People generally understand that if you just lay on top of it. This is draft scenario with the assumption that this municipal budget gets passed as proposed, the school budget gets passed as proposed, and the county is going to do this compared to last year.
But we'd also have to figure in our overlay and all the rest of the numbers in order to come up with.
New valuation.
And give it the evaluation and rest, so it wouldn't even be in the ballpark, honestly.
Yeah.
Because we're missing the big pieces.
If there was no change in assessment, that would be the assumption. Like, that's the assumption. You know what I mean? Like, what percentage change do you think we're looking at? That's a burning question, of course, but is it tremendous?
I know I'm like a novice at all of this. Like when I left like Tuesday and saw that, I was like, I went home and I was like, I cannot with conscience encourage people like your taxes are going to make this much money.
Okay.
So thank God for correcting that for me.
Of course.
And John, you like commented on a thing as well that I feel like being able to provide information, even if it's not like fully verbal, we want it to be there, would help people with this decision to understand. Like, I love the idea of having full-time paramedics and EMT. We talked about this yesterday. If we had nothing, if someone needed help here, they have to call York or Dover. Likely they could be dead by the time someone gets here. So to the comment earlier about moral obligation, 100% get that. But if we're going to be talking to people like, this is what your taxes are with 8 full-time people versus this is what it is with 12 people, understanding and kind of putting those in numbers is what people are going to want to see and to better understand, in my humble opinion.
And they can.
Mhm.
In the end, when we have all the numbers, I agree with you, but we can't give them that numbers until we go through the process and we have all the numbers laid out in front of us, because it all depends. Their tax rate is gonna be depend on the overlay and what we pull out of undesignated
Mhm.
and all the rest of the taxes. And until we have that, any number we put out that tells somebody your taxes, rest assured, your taxes are only going up 6.5%, is extremely irresponsible from us sitting there. Because
Well,
if we,
you know, I've talked to Mallory about this a number of times.
if
I don't think people understand.
Let John.
Oh, hold on.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
If we put out there anything, you know what's gonna run with it, and this is what the council said, and this is what it's gonna be. And people will plan on that, and I would not want someone planning on their taxes were going up 4.5%, and they're going up 9% because of all the rest of the information we don't have. I agree with you guys, they need to know, what they need to know is by looking at the numbers we put out, their taxes are not going up 17.5%. That's what they need to know, they need to know that.
Right.
Just because the municipal budget is here, you relax, let us get all the numbers in, follow along, get to the public hearing. Let us get everything involved. We can't put out numbers, don't know. Go ahead, Paul.
No, I agree. I mean, I just think, you know, you could throw out a number and people are going to see a number of like, okay, our budget is up by 15%. And, that's what, you know, people are going to think about. And, you know, there's so much more involved than that. And, you know, I'm not sure that, you know, and again, I've talked to Mallory about this. I'm not sure how people understand how this all works, because it is complicated. And frankly, I didn't understand it until I got on the town council. So,
neither did I. It's very complicated.
It takes a minute to get.
So, you know, I think it's sort of a communications issue. And I think, and I'm not, you know, I just think we need to be, you know, have a communication strategy, because these are big numbers and these are big increases, but they may not be as big as people think they are, you know, so.
In the end, you're 100% correct. In the end, it might not make that big of a difference, depending on where we set the mill rate. Because the mill rate is what your tax rate is. Your mill rate is per thousand.
And in order to get to the mill rate, we need the new valuation, because a huge difference could be if the new valuation is only 5 million, or if the new valuation is 20 million. That makes a huge difference in what we're gonna collect, right?
Is there any scenario where, I mean, we just went through that whole process and the new valuation would be partly dependent on new development and improvements that, you know.
Permits and growth.
Yes,
And
so
so that's what,
how many subdivisions have we gone through this year?
well, it's not just that, it's stacks, it's
Right,
fire sheds, it's new valuation. It could be, you know, a partial new build for a new building. There's a lot to it, and that's why we have an April 1st deadline from the state. And then usually Vernon can give us the numbers by
First week in August.
first week in
We
August.
can't start the process till April.
But
yeah,
we can.
yeah, I understand that, but we can look at historic, like, in terms of getting something out there, and this, I agree, communication and how we communicate is important. I just, you know, assuming a percentage of a rate of growth can, I mean, we know year over year growth back many years, and not, if you look at that and you make assumptions, just like you all have done year over year here for your budgets. And next week we have the draft superintendent's proposed budget coming out, that between the superintendent's proposed budget and the municipal budget, we captured 90% of the overall. Now we're just talking a delta of 10%. And then related to the overlay and valuations, you just make an assumption on the growth rate. And then you do a calculation and see what happens. I mean, if the school's going up 15%, and this is going up 15%, and that's 90% of the pie, it's going up 12%. You know what I mean? Like, again, draft, you know, it's
But it's not that easy. That's the problem.
well,
We need to set the mill rate to know what the tax rate is. And if we put out any number without going through those sheets, it's a false number.
well, that's why you don't nail it to the wall. You mark it as draft and, you know, or like scenario, like somewhat scenario. It will help people inform whether they want to show up or not. That's what, you know, and it is.
200 people last year show up. 200 people showed up for our town meeting last year. I've been here when there's been 6. There were 200 people last year. There was probably at least that the year before. We've had a great turnout over the last 3 or 4 years in town meetings. I cannot in good conscience, and this is just me going back to opinions, cannot in good conscience be part of putting out a number that I have not seen pen and paper and done the sheets and done the percentages to figure out the mill rate. I cannot do that because I will not tie my name to anything that is not concrete based on real numbers that we have at that time. And that's just me. Council can decide what they want to do, but I will not do that.
Hold on, I'm just gonna take a step back. Want to get back to the whole like.
We gotta get back to the fire department in a minute because we've gone way off track.
This connection, I like, as it stands right now, what like Sam commented on earlier, we like. Paul can comment, like when we were running, that was the main comment for people, taxes were up, all of that. This makes me feel a lot better than when I initially looked at it, that like, people are already adjusted to paying for 8 full-time people. Great,
For 2 months,
for 2 months.
for 2 months, which means it's actually, that's 2/12 of
Yes.
next year's.
Let's get
Or
it.
next year is more.
Let's get it. But then it's going to change, and I want to be able to support this with the idea of knowing like this is what like I believe in it, but I also have a hard time supporting it fully, understanding what the impact will be without any numbers that we can kind of push out of like potential increase based on taxpayer. And maybe that's just me, maybe that's just the way that I think, but right now, like, I can maybe get behind 8. There's no way I could push for 12. But I also know it's not just up to me. But I feel like there's a better way that we can kind of see, like, this is what the size of the pie is, I don't know.
Can I offer maybe a suggestion? I'm looking to Jen because I think we've done something similar. I am in agreement with everyone that I think it would be great for people to have more information sooner, 100%. I also know that people, when not fully educated on the process by which those numbers are brought together, tend to like see a number and then they cling to it and then that is locked in stone forever. And so I am kind of on the fence about putting information out there sooner, but I know in the past, we've kind of done this kind of toggling where we can sort of say, you know, for every X percent we add or decrease from the budget, that equates to a certain percentage, obviously overall, but like, is there a way we could sort of kind of do that, but with the mill rate? Are you following what I'm saying? So we're not necessarily locking in certain numbers, but we're sort of saying for every incremental 10,000, 100,000, whatever, that's roughly a certain amount, like to kind of think about it in that way.
Not with all the, we would have to assume,
It'd be
and
okay.
it'd be a shot in the dark.
Okay.
I mean, I can do an assumption, but, you know, all of those could be wrong.
And Joel, I appreciate what you just said about the 8 and standing behind it and standing behind the taxes. And the only thing I want to remind everybody is unanimously, everybody and the town voted to fund this, knowing what was coming down the tax lane. Now, they also didn't know what their taxes were gonna go up based on new assessments. Understand that also, right? Got that. But in every public hearing we had, Nick did, I don't know how many presentations.
Many.
It was unanimous by everybody. They wanted this. So the 8, to me, is locked in stone with 8, right? That's what he needs to run. The 4, like Sam was presenting, if spread it out, that could be the chief, that's the council's will. That's whatever we wanna do, but in speaking to you, the 8 is pretty much, that's where we're at as far as the 8.
And that's why, specifically why I put this one together is that the 339, 453 is what's in play. Everything else is.
Yeah.
Not locked in stone, obviously, but committed.
You know, like, I feel like this is the best of both worlds. Like, I mean, again, I'm just one person, like, it doesn't matter what I say, that's what the taxpayer said. But I feel like this gives us that moral standing and also supporting, we have an aging population. We need to provide support. I love that you talked a lot yesterday about being able to provide support in homes. Like, that makes people feel more comfortable, like it costs less. I 100% get that. I want to get behind that. And then, but then, like, it just feels like being able to balance that and planning. 2027, we add another 2. 2028, we add another 2. Something like that might be something that we can present. So thank you for putting this together. But yeah, that's just where my head's been spinning since we got since we saw this on Tuesday.
We also had many older residents, I can't say aging, many older residents speak to us during a few of Chief Hamill's public hearings or information sessions about, they remember South Berwick Rescue, right? When South Berwick Rescue was here. I don't know how many years ago now, but
13,
14. It was comforting when they knew the first responders walking in their house, right? And that's the value of our own EMS again, because people that use them on a semi-regular basis, and you do have your people that use them on a semi-regular basis, it is comforting. Or if they know them from around town, it is comforting. So again, that's a big piece of it.
I think, you know, last night I talked to somebody who has, asked us about taxes and why they're so high, and he had some opinions about it. And when I brought up this situation, the EMS, increasing the EMS budget, he was like, "Fine. I mean, I'm okay with that." So I think, I mean, that's sort of where we are. And I mean, my own feeling is like, what options do we have to sort of reduce the cost of that service? And, again, I'll go back to TIF, I'll go back to, working with other communities. And I know that's sort of long term, but I do think we need to be able to say to taxpayers that we're like looking to like mitigate those costs. And, that's where we're at. Anyway.
I think on top of that, yeah, sorry.
Okay.
The starting to look at our regular meetings into this legislation related to non-transport reimbursements.
Yep. There's a lot of those.
I also just want to make sure that we remind ourselves that the situation we are in, every other community in the state of Maine is in with property taxes. And the way that the state kind of deals with taxes just really doesn't make any sense, because we're seeing our property values go up like crazy, but no one's salary is going up the same amount. It makes this huge assumption that it's because my property value is going up, suddenly I have more money to pay my taxes. And that's a problem. And that's happening across the entire state. That's not anything that this body can affect, but can happen at the state legislature level. And I promised I wouldn't do this, but I'm running for state office, and that's absolutely something I intend to push for when hopefully that happens. But I think that we also just need to remind ourselves that this is a problem that is not just a South Berwick problem. It's happening everywhere. There's this task force happening at the state level to work on property tax relief. I'm hopeful that something will come out of that.
All right, that is a perfect segue to go into fire equipment, if everybody's okay with that.
That was smooth.
Thank you. I'm trying to be much better.
That's what you call it.
We're going to see it.
Are we going to see it?
We're going to purple one, the second one.
Yeah,
Okay.
3350.
Nick, can you stop sharing?
Fire equipment.
Better.
Yeah. Thanks.
I was just gonna go to the restroom. I didn't know anyone else needed, or we want to pause for a second?
We will pause for a moment.
Yep, because I can find my stuff, so.
I gave nothing.
Really? Someone's,
I grew a mustache for 2 weeks here, and that's me.
yeah.
No, no.
No, I don't care. No,
The women's room is weird because there's those windows. Like, I feel like I come
Oh,
out of
the
the stall
windows?
and I feel like I'm
Yeah.
just like,
Everybody.
hello, like, they-
Yeah, to the front.
yeah, to the front,
Yeah.
especially when it's
The
dark.
window,
at
our
night.
windows are to the back, there's no one else.
Like, I stood there and I was like drying my hands, just walking, watching people walk down the street. To put some, well, the men's and women's will be swapped, but regardless, we should put some of the privacy
Privacy.
zone, yeah.
Well. The third floor, behind the stall place.
Tired.
Me too. We got 3 of them next week.
Right.
Well, council meeting and 2 budget.
I was at my desk and I looked up,
One of
oh, it's 5:30. I didn't even go home and change.
That they can help if we want assumption numbers or any of that stuff. We have to get ours solved first.
Yeah,
We have to get this taken care of. Remember, we gotta remind them, we got a deadline here. By the 24th of council meeting on the 24th, we've gotta be done.
So I'm back to, hang on. I'm back to, I will not stand behind a number that is not done in ink. I
We
will
should-
not do it, period.
we should maybe just stop the conversation until we have the whole group back, just
Yeah, I'm just,
on board.
no, I'll just say, tell them the same thing. If, I wanna remind the group that we need to get ours done and we have to, hopefully to come up.
It'll be good. Keeps us the worst.
But I'm always.
She's the worst.
I know, you would cause
That's
me,
why I was hoping to pull the Band-Aid off. Just-
you would cause me more angst. Over the last 2 years with your shenanigans, plans.
So one of the things I mentioned was in the bathroom, that helps us, whether we come to an assumption of numbers or whatever you wanna do. Is for us to finalize our budget, so we have a solid number we can start with, that's helpful. And I would truly remember that we have till the 24th of March, and the 24th of March, you have to vote on a draft budget to take to a public hearing. So we have to have this done by that. So,
And this is probably the hardest thing you guys have to do. And it's hard to not know what the impact is
right,
when you're picking these numbers.
right. Oh, well, I just wanted to remind everybody.
All right, everybody's back, chief, let's roll.
Or back on. CIP is pretty, stable this year. We really just have the vehicle payments, the command vehicle, the new engine. It will be the, second payment on the new ambulance. And then the, we replace between 4 and 6 portable radios every year as part of our life cycle management, so.
Why are the portable radios cost so much and what's different about them?
So they're the ones we are transitioning to are capable of operating in multiple bands, which for the layperson is that we neighbor towns who use a different system than we do. So it's like iOS and Android, they're 2 completely different things. And the multi-band radio does both. So we for years just kind of dealt with it and didn't put any money towards it. And then it really started to become a safety issue where we had to have communications with neighboring towns. And so this would be the second or third year that we've brought this forward, so.
So again, this is when you're out on calls, so you can work with wherever you show up first.
Right. So like Sunday, we're in Berwick, we're able to talk to Berwick, or if we go to Sanford or Wells or any of the other towns.
I'm gonna go with it's a no-brainer because it's a safety thing, and again, you gotta have the communication, you guys were pumping water from everywhere for.
Making brown water all over town.
So that line, should that line show up in FY 28-9 going, you said it's an every year thing?
Yeah, this just needs to be updated to try to moving forward, yeah.
You're talking about the radios needs to be on our.
34,000.
And then the other thing is we moved turnout gear to capital improvement, but this year we didn't have any to replace, so we just pulled it as a try to save some money on it.
Well,
Trying to do my part. I have a big enough increase as it is, so.
did everybody going through, did you get everybody through the EMT class that went through
We did.
December, January?
We sent in 11, all 11 passed, and about 2/3 of them have gotten their licenses already.
Wow.
Yep. And we just got, we applied for the Alfond grant, so we actually got half of the 18,000 reimbursed. We just got the check this last week, so.
Nice. Excellent, thank you. Any other questions for Chief Animal?
I guess I would just draw attention to your note on here, and also our conversation about the capital outlay for essentially, 10 to 25 years. Related to the apparatus.
Yeah, so like we had spoke about yesterday and we've talked about before is we've done a lot of changes in the fleet, upgrades of the fleet the last couple of years. And if you're only taking a 3, 4, 5 year look, it looks pretty stable. But beyond that, we kind of have this situation where we have 2 vehicles that are the same age, in 2013. So they'll be 20 years old in just a few years, which is hard to believe. And then the third vehicle, the most expensive, the ladder truck, will be 30 years old in 4 or 5 years. So we're kind of, again, if you only look at a 5 year snapshot, it looks stable. But then when you extend that out to 10 to 15 to 20 years, you realize that, okay, that's coming. At some point we're going to need to address how we're going to handle that.
Say we made that mistake buying trucks.
Yeah.
Many years back for the town department, for Public Works, right? We bought 4 trucks because it was the best thing to do.
Yep.
Then all 4 trucks aged out at the
And
same
then you
time.
never planned to.
So, yeah.
Next up, and the 2 the same age was actually, it happened because the tanker, the old tanker got totaled in an accident. When the new truck was, so it wasn't meant to be that way, it just sort of happened, so, really, you're looking at 2 that are 20 years old and one that's 30, we should probably talk about maybe pulling one in and pushing one out, or trying to get that separation back, so.
Yeah, whichever's better or whichever's easier to
Right.
replace.
Yeah.
Which, so drawing not only for that information, but also outside of the fire department. There's obviously similar assets that have longer lives, are buildings, major systems in our buildings, the highway department stuff. And I think it would behoove us to start in a more comprehensive basis tracking these assets and just that type of information you talk about on it out into 20+ years, because I mean it's really we need to. And when you have $1 million in expense, obviously it's hard to save for the reserves this year given the increase in these salaries, but in future years it's definitely something that we should pay more attention to. And I know you guys have started trying to do that, but I think we need more information on that to figure out what those needs are across the whole town.
Anything else for Chief Animal?
Thank you, Chief. I know that, over the past year and a half or so, there's probably more than that. You put so much time and effort into standing up this program, and it's exciting to see it kind of finally starting to full blown thing. So just thank you for all of your time and effort.
Appreciate the support.
Avoid the deer on the way home.
I'll try.
Do we want to just quickly talk about what we want to cover next time?
Yeah.
Thanks, good idea.
So we all know what we're gonna cover next Thursday, 'cause Tuesday's regular time.
We have on Wednesday and Thursday.
Wednesday and Thursday.
Oh. I was not in the loop on that, it'll be fine.
So I'm hoping Wednesday to have the police chief. And unless there's another department that you wanna see, everything else is pretty much, what you got in front of you, there's no other major increase there unless you wanna see something.
And that's really, again, that I answered that with Sam's question. That wasn't asked from me. That's if Chief Google wants to come, I feel we owe him.
Yeah,
If he wants to come, I feel we owe him the chance to come speak to us about what was done with his budget.
Me personally, I think because not outside of this part of the municipal budget, there's the TIF budget. I think it would be beneficial to have DeCarlo come in if he's so willing. I know he does a lot of nighttime stuff already, but
So typically we do the TIF budget after this budget has been approved, because one of the warrant articles is that the residents allow the town council to spend the TIF as it is in the plan. That you guys spend it as you see fit according to
Our budget.
our budget.
So our finalized budget is an input to the TIF budget. So I think the overview you're talking about, absolutely, but after we finalize this budget.
okay, I think I mean, that's fine. Okay. I think the interaction between the two makes them related, despite that statement.
They are definitely related.
Yeah, so. Having all that information, in my opinion, would definitely help inform decisions on this budget.
Yeah, can I follow up on that? I was just, yeah, so, I mean, do we go over are we gonna go over the TIF budget at some point? I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Yes, we go over the TIF budget after the town meeting when we pass this budget.
Usually in May or June.
Because the town has to vote to allow, it's one of the warrant articles, if you look at the warrant article that Tim passed out last year, one of the line items, one of the articles should be that the townspeople allow the town council to spend TIF money as they see fit. So the TIF budget isn't set until after they give us authority to spend it for fiscal year 27.
There's Article 9.
Article 9.
But in some of the expenses we have already seen, because the TIF, there's rules around how much we can spend the TIF on, and it's percentage based, right? So there's lots of like 15% here and there. So those rules, for lack of a better word, don't change regardless of our budget amount. So like Jen and team have already started to fold that into the individual sheets, where you'll note there'll be places where I'll say like 15% of salary covered or whatever. So I think that the two are interacting in the current budget. Maybe may not be like laid out in the way that we may all want to see, but I think it is incorporated there. But I do think Paul's earlier point about investigation about TIF and the potential to use any TIF funds for anything fire related, any of the fire EMS stuff, I think is probably something that should happen sooner rather than later, because that would certainly have an impact on the budget if we could use funds for TIF.
We do use 15% off the CIP for fire. And I already have an email out to find out if we have to do an amendment, if it's even allowable at all.
To use more.
From what we can tell, talking to DeCarlo, is it's more overhead salaries, like Tim and I assessing code.
If you're looking for input on that, then have it.
I mean, I think, I'm sorry, I'll talk to you guys later about it. I think like just sort of like accepting the fact that this is what it is, and that's the way it's gonna go, is there's opportunities to amend our TIP program and to deal with like new expenses that were, have arisen. And I mean, it's been told to me by like people who are really very, very knowledgeable about TIFs. So again, I think we need to like uncover every, to pull over every stone we can to try to figure out whether we can like find other ways to pay for this EMS service. So, I mean, that's my take.
Yeah, I agree, Paul. That's what I was kind of saying, is that I just think we need to try to prioritize any further investigation into what additional TIF funds we may be able to use for the fire service in the near term, so that if miraculously we can incorporate that into this budget.
But well, the problem is we can't.
Once I find out real quick.
And the other side is, until they vote to allow us to spend it for fiscal year 27, we can't use that money. So we could get to the town meeting and they could vote it down. And if we put it in this budget to use $200,000 for Chief Hamill, then we don't have that $200,000. So I agree with Paul and what Sam's talking about. And we could look at it and we can offset the money after the fiscal year starts.
Yep.
But we can't plan for it now because it hasn't been voted on by the town to allow us to use 27 TIF money.
Right.
It's shown in here,
What?
reductions to capital expenditures.
They're planning for that, yes, they are. But if it doesn't come to fruition and we plan another couple $100,000 is what I'm getting at.
So we should probably take all that TIF expectancy out of here then.
Can if you want.
I guess I'm maybe coming, I understand that like there's administrative stuff that would need to happen if, in the event that there is more opportunity used to funds. But I sort of view it kind of similar to like how we presented with the town hall. We said, you know, we're applying for this $75,000 solar grant, this other grant, and like explaining to taxpayers that these are other things that we feel like are doable in the near future for us to help with the tax burden. So even if we can't and speak to it like definitively, I think it just simply being just like a descriptive thing of, and we've also learned that there's more opportunity in the tip.
I'd love to
that
take
we can
another
take
100,000 out of the
That way,
budget.
hopefully we can use that to help. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I agree. Again, I'd love to take 100,000 or 200,000 out of the budget from Tim. I would absolutely love to. And if someone can come up with something in the next couple of weeks for our meetings, so be it. But again, we're closing in on money time, and it's a great thing to look at next year, but we can try hard this year. Yes, sir, Mr. Town Manager.
Chief, you excuse?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, sure.
Yes, sorry. I don't mind, like you, any meeting to come, Sam.
Yeah, okay.
I don't mind
Yeah.
inviting DeCarlo. I might have other stuff to add and other stuff to answer questions. We know the process. How we're gonna build that, but if you want DeCarlo, that's fine. I'll schedule it next week with Chief Ruger. It won't clearly hurt. He's also asking for an additional planner, so you can talk to him about that.
Good.
Do you know if he's gonna be at the regular meeting for the public hearing for the 10th Amendment? Probably not.
He's always.
No,
been
yeah,
everything.
he'll be there.
He will. So is there a possible way to, I know it would be technically a workshop, but is it possible to have him do it at that regular meeting when he's?
No, I'd rather not. I'll just invite him to a meeting here. He'll be okay.
He's gonna be there to talk about the stewardship grant also, or the stewardship,
So
or
I'd rather keep it
Walkway.
clean.
Yeah.
that was supposed to be on last week.
Do Wednesday for the.
Yeah, we gotta make sure that's on this week's.
We can't.
Oh, it is.
I don't want those people yelling at me.
We could meet.
Pat Roberts is scared.
And
We can,
the.
no.
Could we,
Yeah, we can do something.
or the community center?
I mean, if he's the only presentation, right? Wednesday?
No, I think the concern is that there's a planning board meeting.
Oh, yeah, no, I know, but he just heard.
Play by ear, we might be able to skip Wednesday, cause Wednesday night's a planning board anyway.
Okay.
So if we can wrap everything else up into Thursday. The police chief, I don't think is gonna be a big thing. He's gonna talk to you about his 2 patrol officers that he's putting in for every year and how he gets there. And then it'll be whatever the question you have to Kyle, and then it'll be on to regular budget stuff.
I think we can just finish up on, I mean, I think we can skip Wednesday and go to Thursday, honestly.
I think that get, and then, I'm fine with that too. I think that gives us a little more time to settle our brains on whatever.
And again, if anybody has any questions or wants to go over the process,
Feel free to come in and ask or talk to us.
yeah.
And same for fellow counselors, if you guys have questions for us, it's like haven't been part of the process before.
So,
Okay, so we're not gonna meet on Wednesday?
so do you wanna skip Wednesday or not feel that?
With it, knowing we're not voting, I'm okay with.
Oh, we can just take a recommendation.
I'm going on Sam's recommendation of yes. Therefore, if anybody complains or.
We can
Sam's
check
fault.
the town council meeting on Tuesday.
Oh my God.
Would we just do this?
Yeah, no, I'm good.
In that case,
Paul?
don't be here.
He left, we're good.
Okay,
I'll throw a rock in his yard with a note on it today, or tomorrow morning driving by.
Were you guys looking for me? I'm sorry.
We thought you left, are you okay to cancel the Wednesday budget workshop and just?
Oh my God, of course.
Okay, great.
Man, sounded like your flight was leaving. We are done, thank you.
We're all set.
Coming in.
hey, Paul, before you
Yeah.
go, just so you know, so after you sent that email today, I gave that to, both DeCarlo and Jen to start researching that, see if we can come up with an answer for next week.
Great. I don't know. Maybe it's a shot in the dark, but you know, if we can cut off a couple $100,000, that'd be great.
What are we covering on the 19th?
So, start with police and,
It's
I'm
not,
still
that's not
thinking
next.
I like.
Yeah, we're going, correct?
Yes.